All right, we are live. Welcome,
that was
everyone.
awesome.
Joining. I know, I love that video. The music is so catchy. Thank you for joining today's webinar. We're going to be discussing emerging trends of contingent workforce strategy. I am Laura Moritz. I'm the Director of Implementation for Flentis, and I'm also going to be moderating the conversation today, although I know Eric and Terri very well, and I know they can talk on their own for hours, so I don't know how much they'll need me today. But I'm here with Eric Coppin. If you don't know him, he's our head of sales here at Flentis. And then also our guest CEO and president of Gallagher and Consultants, Terri Gallagher. So first, I want to just kind of give an intro. We're going to be talking about contingent workforce trends and strategies, and just technology and consulting and how those different roles play together in programs. And then we will also have a live Q&A at the end. So please feel free to submit questions throughout the discussion, and we'll go ahead and read those off and answer them at the end of the call. So Eric, if you can give just a quick introduction to yourself, and then we'll let Terri introduce herself and her company as well.
Sure. Thanks, Laura. Eric Coppin here. Obviously, global head of sales for Flentis. This is our third webinar, which is pretty cool. What I love about these little fireside chats is they're live. They're not scripted. They're just
You never know what's going to
conversation.
happen.
Yeah. But it's an opportunity to just have a nice discussion with SMEs around the industry about different topics. I've been in the space close to 25 years now, having different roles in different organizations. Seen a lot, have still a lot to learn. So it's great to have someone like Terri on and chatting about what she's seeing, because there's always something changing, something disrupting our industry. But really impassioned about our space. I think it's a lot of fun. I think we get to help people find jobs. We get to help organizations grow their workforce. And there's a lot of challenges, and especially in today's market, there's no shortage of challenges. So it's good to have this kind of discussion around what's out there, what's working, what's not working, and maybe some different out of the box thinking that can help push programs forward.
Love it.
So Terri, I hand it over to you.
Speaking of out of the box, so Terri Gallagher, founder and president of Gallagher and Consultants, and founded this woman-owned consulting company 7 years ago. Similar to what Eric said, we saw a lot of changes happening in the space around technology and how talent was being procured, and wanted to do things a little bit differently. I actually come from the MSP VMS space, and I decided if I'm going to do that, I need to create my own company. And so that's what we did. We do focus on emerging trends, technology providers that are doing something a little bit different in the space. And I'm happy to see everything that I thought was going to happen 7 years ago is happening. We're seeing explosive growth around ICs and contingent workforce, a lot of things happening with tech. So I feel like we put ourselves in the right place at the right time, and we have collaborators that are kind of getting it, so the field of dreams, like build it and they will come. That's been our methodology. And they're still coming around, so it's great.
Perfect. Well, and that, Terri, kind of leads into where I wanted to start the conversation anyway, is if you can kind of just give us a little bit of an overview of what makes your approach different than a standard MSP that you might come across in the industry, and how you manage relationships and technologies that you work with.
Well, I think I'll start with that first part, right? And then Eric, you and I can dive in, because we, could talk about this all day. So nobody invents anything really different, ourselves included. So I come from the MSP space, and I saw what was working and what wasn't. And so I kept the things that were working. We created the Adaptable Talent Program. It's trademarked. And I think the three main changes the three differences are focusing on enabling multiple forms of talent supply, right, versus requisition management. So bringing in direct sourcing day one, what is the best way to kind of open up the floodgates and let technology enable that? The second pillar is flexible services models. People are now talking about bringing programs in-house or hybrid or outsourced, but really being agile around creating the services wrapper around the tech play that's going to bring in multiple forms of talent supply. And then I think the last piece of that is we're a consulting firm. We're not owned by a staffing company. We have no skin in the game. We don't need to feed the mothership. So we can build whatever is needed for the customer, and we can do that more quickly. So I think that enables us to bring in better leadership. We put consulting level talent in these programs, and really just looking at what wasn't working in that older model and then fixing it. And because of that, and the way we're structured, we're also half the cost of an MSP. We don't need to pay for, legions of program consultants and all these other things. So we kind of keep it lean and smart. And I'll leave with a stat, because Eric, this ties into VMS usage. So you're going to be like all over this, but I thought this was an interesting trend. So when we look at like what's going on in the industry, is it okay to quote SIA? Because that's where I get most of my debt. Like, am I going to get in trouble? All right.
No, we're members. It's okay.
Live from New York. So we get all data from SIA. They're the godfather of data in our industry, period. Like, they just are very accurate. And so some of the stats they came up with is that VMS usage is increasing by 88%. Customers that don't have it, 10% over that 88% are going to get VMS. But the MSP model's kind of plateaued. So kind of like what I said, VMS is escalating. You've got massive growth of ICs, contingent workers, that's also escalating. And so the tech play, I think, is going to be leading the charge versus old, the older paradigm, which is like the MSP and the services model. I think services has to wrap around the tech. So I'll stop there. That's like the perfect layup, Eric. I don't know. I could not have set that up any better.
Well, that means you already scored, so I'm going to sit down.
I did. Did I say that right? I suck at sports, so I don't know if I used
that.
Okay.
It's a good analogy, but I've seen it too. You're seeing a lot of decoupling of technology and services, and you're seeing organizations come up that are specialty, right? That they do one thing really, really well. And I think clients are more and more moving away from adopting just one organization to do everything, rather bring in subject matter experts in certain areas and plugging them into their program, and having this almost like this network, this ecosystem of solutions, which we didn't used to see 5 years ago. It's been changing, and you're right. Tech has been the big disruptor in our space and continues to be. But it's allowing us also to just, I think, build a better mousetrap in general. And it is going to take very innovative thinkers and out of the box thinkers and open-minded clients to start adopting some of these new methodologies. Because if you look at the ROI, it's tangible. What we've seen with direct sourcing, what we see with EOR platforms, what we see with the impact of FMS in the gig economy, in SOW. So, there's not one single, I guess, pill that you can take that's going to just alleviate all of your headaches. But I think if you can start thinking about what is best in class in every area and almost modularize, your solution going forward,
100%.
and then bringing in someone who can really understand and essentially be that kind of conduit to all that technology, you're going to be a step ahead. And you're right. It's fun to see the evolution in our space, and hey, the challenges are there, especially in workforce supply, talent supply. It's not easy. So it's better for those who can think outside of the box and start adopting some of these new practices than just your legacy, one and one.
Well, and I think, and we can move on to the next thing, but modularize, I'm using that soundbite, I've already typed that to our marketing team. I steal stuff all the time. I love that. But I think you're right, because all of the services providers that are stepping up to better manage ICs, and I won't name names, but the tech ecosystem that's really kind of stepping in to enable these multiple forms of talent supply, we have to have modular services wrappers that can elevate and help these technology providers come together to build out the better talent supply strategy. So another stat, if you look at the $5 trillion market, that is the global total contingent work, IC, SOW market, MSPs only have 10% of that. Let that sink in for a minute. So that other 90% is sitting in ICs, SOW, direct sourcing. Who's building the better mousetrap to manage that area of spend, right? And I think that that's the huge opportunity for our competition out there. That my gift to you, because we love to co-create and collaborate, and I think that there's a massive opportunity for everybody in this space to help customers get their arms around that.
Yeah, agreed.
Oh, Eric, do you want to add anything there?
No, go ahead, Laura.
Okay, perfect. Because that kind of leads perfectly into the next question, is these conversations that have to happen in order to determine what services, what technology is actually needed to support that client. So I kind of want to hear just from each of you of how do you have that conversation and how do you make that determination?
So Eric, you go first.
Okay. Well, I think it really depends on one, the industry that you're serving, right? So, organizations that are in manufacturing, organizations that are in healthcare, organizations that are in, information technology or engineering, it's all going to be different, right? Your challenges are going to be different. And, I'll pick on healthcare, for example, because healthcare is an industry that is going to always continue to grow, as our population grows, as our population gets older. there's just going to be more and more reliance on our healthcare systems, which, conversely is going to be more reliant on talent supply, right? So, what are we doing in that specific industry is going to be different than what we're going to be doing in manufacturing or engineering. And again, I'm going to continue to use healthcare. You think about this, just the crazy demand for nursing and allied professionals in healthcare. And what are the solutions that they're using? Well, they're using traditional in healthcare, traditional MSPs. I wouldn't call them an actual MSP. I call them more of a master vendor. But that model really hasn't changed much in the last 15 years, if not more. So where is direct sourcing? Where is EOR platforming? Where is independent contractor vetting and compliance? Where are all these things? And are they left up to one organization? And how are they doing it? And is it best practice? So, what I'm saying is essentially there's not one solution or one approach for every industry. Manufacturing's got its own challenges with on-demand talent requisitioning and, talent supply, certainly with the gig economy and the continued growth of Amazon, that's putting price pressure on the marketplace. So you need wider nets. So where is that going to come from? Well, there's a number of things that you can do from an FMS and also from a direct sourcing aspect. But what I'm getting at is essentially, every industry has its own specific challenges, and of course, subset to that, every client's going to have their own particular challenges based on their needs and their jurisdictions, right? Which can be somewhat limiting. For example, some of the plants we see in the middle of nowhere, where are you going to get your talent? There's only a finite amount of talent. So, we need to be thinking more strategically in our approach to creating solutions and putting our clients into a continuous process improvement, evolving, solution so that we're not stuck and stale. Because if you're not growing, you're dying, right? And we've seen it with MSP solutions. If you're not continuously adding value and bringing in new methodologies and strategies to improve the user experience and return on investment, you're failing. So it's a constant swim upstream. And I'll hand it back to you, Terri. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, and definitely to add around that too, completely agree. I think that the key word is agility and being able to look at each customer and then build out the right services and tech play that's going to work for them, irregardless of referral, agreements or channel partnerships, which we don't do. We've never signed a referral or a channel partnership agreement because we want to be free we want to be free. We want to bring in like whoever we want to bring in. So to your point, I think all of these different industries who have different needs, we need to think about what is the right combination of services and tech that's going to best serve them, whether it's healthcare, LI, and they all have different needs. We tend to lean more towards having an entire ecosystem of solution providers. More is more is better versus going in with a couple of channel partners and like, this is it. Like, it's like going to Ponderosa and there's only 4 things at the buffet, right? We're like Golden Corral. There's like, you can have whatever you want at the buffet, only we're going to kind of help you pick it out. So a big part of that, I think, is, one of the questions that came up is how do you get solution providers to work together? If you're bringing in all of these different solution providers for this one solution for the client, sometimes clients do get nervous when they see 5 and 6 logos on there, like, how is this going to work? And I think the key to remember is a lot of these service providers, the tech providers, have open API. They're already building to work well with others and work with other tech stacks. So the emerging tech providers are doing that. I think the other part of that is when you bring in these different providers, you bring them early into the requirements gathering so that everybody plays nice and we all know kind of what we're going to be building together. I think that that's really important. And the tech ecosystem is just exploding right now. So, and clients are overwhelmed. They don't, they're like, well, what VMS do we pick? And what direct sourcing platform do we pick? And then what about IC vetting and all those things? So we really need to be consultative, but not because, well, these are the 3 that we have channel partnerships with. So I think that's important. You know, we've actually had situations where we brought in different solution providers, and then they were not necessarily decoupled, and then they brought in their MSP and tried to kick us out of our own deal. That actually happened a couple of times. So, you know, we're really careful with working with, you know, tech products and other products that really will work well together. But I think that that's the moral of the story. We have to be alchemists and be open to building the exact right strategy.
Yeah.
So, and oh, go ahead, Eric.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say, first of all, nice pool on Ponderosa, which was my former employer when I was in college.
I love Golden Corral. Like, I could still go there all day, but no, I can't.
Well, now you switched to Golden Corral. You said Ponderosa. So, you know, I would also go a little bit deeper. So, you know, we talk direct sourcing. Not a lot of people think about the curation aspect of direct sourcing, which is key, because direct sourcing, you've got the platform provider, which, you know, I can think of a couple that are really, really good. But if you don't have a good curation team underneath that tech, you're not gonna succeed. And I don't think a lot of organizations dig deep enough. They say, hey, we need direct sourcing. That's great, but who's driving, you know, the boat, you know, right? Who's managing the technology, and who's running your candidate marketing campaigns, and where are they pointing the technology at, and what are they doing in terms of candidate vetting? So you know, you have to keep going deeper, right? And I think the industry is still trying to really get their arms around how to optimize a direct sourcing solution in their whole, you know, program infrastructure.
We're ahead of it. The customers are not where we are. The customers are only just beginning to explore direct sourcing. I think people overtalk and over promise, like, just how advanced in the market that is. We're advanced, but the customers really need our help.
And that was going to be kind of my next question for you. Is I'm curious what the response you've gotten is to this decoupling, and if you're seeing it resonate with your clients, why do you think that is?
So I'll jump in here. I happen to know the MSPs are now attempting to do what we've been doing for 4 or 5 years. It's just before, when I first started, nobody wanted to listen. Everybody thought I was crazy, and I thought I was too, but I hung in there. I think there's definitely a trend in that direction towards, like, using a modular approach to the services wrapper. So it is happening, and we are seeing MSPs starting to do that. I think doing it intelligently and doing it thoughtfully around the right tech ecosystem is really important. But yeah, that is where we're headed. That's really what's going to be it's not even emerging, it's just here now. I mean, Eric, I don't know what you guys are seeing on your end, because you're on the tech side, but.
No, it's changing, right? And we certainly have our pre-integrated tech partnerships, and continue to examine other opportunities for more partners. You know, again, as a VMS, we want to satisfy the client, so we do want to give them best-in-class options. We've seen more and more solutions out there that, honestly, I haven't even thought of. And I mean, I think of CWS and Gig, you know, going around and seeing all the different vendors, and it's just getting more and more niched, right? Everybody is finding their own little niche and really putting some smart technology around it. So the tech organizations that are nimble, that are easy to integrate, that can configure very quickly, you know, these are the organizations that are going to find more and more success, because everything is, you know, faster, more quality, more ROI, be more nimble, be more agile, as you say.
Or customers, or they have in mind who they want you to work with, and what if they're not in your partnership or channel stream?
Yeah, well, you got to be able to flex, right? And if you can't, that's going to be a detriment to your business and your clients. So we all have to be forward thinking, but we have to have 2 things in mind, and that is what's best for the client, and then what's best or what's easiest to set up. What's the nearest path to success, and you have to create your solution based on that modality, right? You have to be nimble, you have to be quick, you have to be open to new things, and to integrate and configure on the fly, and not charge an arm and a leg for it. You know,
well, I think one thing I will add to that. I think the agility, because we've seen this from the client too, the customer, I think the agility is really important. And I think being able to work with different products, but they're still looking for us to point them in the right direction. So telling a customer, hey, we can do anything. Anything you need is not necessarily going to go over well, even though we can. We have to say, here's all of the menu items at Golden Corral, but these are the 5 things. And this is a combination that we think is going to work best for you. And I think that that's probably the biggest fail that we've seen with some of the other solution providers. They're like, we can just do whatever you need. And sometimes that doesn't always go over so well. So I think we have to be mindful that the customer still needs guidance. They still need us to be consultative, but they need to know that we're going to literally build the best thing for them versus who's our partners, right?
And I kind of want to dig into that a little bit, just with the implementation piece, because a lot of this comes up, and you're right, a lot of the implementations are so standardized that it's, okay, you tell us what you need and we'll do it. And there's that consultative piece is missing of like, here's a recommendation based on what we've discussed of your business practices. So if you can talk a little bit, Terri, just about the implementation process, and how you kind of walk them through that and determine, based on the information that they've given you, what the next step should be.
Well, I think some of it's project management 101. I'm not going to share anything new here with anybody that's in VMS implementation, but it is still really important, and the steps get overlooked. So being able to go in and do a proper assessment and get the right requirements. Getting the right requirements means asking the right questions of the right people. So implementations fail when they don't have the right requirements. They didn't talk to somebody in finance and didn't get the right cost accounting structure. Now nobody gets paid. Like tiny little things like that will bring a program to its knees. So some of that just really good housekeeping of getting the right requirements and understanding what this product needs to do, and then gathering the pain that it needs to fix, and then being able to tie this solution to how it will fix the pain. You'd be amazed like how many people don't do that. You know, they just go and like demo and it has nothing to do. You know, I've seen some really bad VMS demos where they just kind of spray and pray and it's not tied to the pain. So I think that that's very foundational. And then being able to kind of talk about, present like how this solution is going to add value to the organization, not just for contingent workforce, but bottom line results. So a lot of the stakeholders that are involved in these the requirements, for instance, you really need to have someone from HR, finance, procurement, technology, legal, have those people at the table day one when you start. It's going to solve you a lot of downstream pain. But then also being able to understand like what is important to them, and then putting that into a targeted demo script. That's how we do demos. And then we have people really do more of like a proof of concept versus an RFP or a demo, and saying, how are you going to fix this exactly? So I think that that part's really important. But Eric, you've probably got an opinion on this, because, you know, we do that part a little bit differently than some others. So good, bad, or indifferent.
No, I mean, the more discovery you can do up front, it's going to be the better for everyone, right? I think RFPs for technology should, I mean, it should be more of an RFI, really. It should be actually fairly short and sweet. I think really the meat lies in the demonstration of how you can answer the challenges of the client, and being able to kind of grab all of that data and all of the interest from the client standpoint previous to the demonstration, share that with the suppliers.
Absolutely.
Let them get the solution kind of tied around to the client environment, and to present how they would approach it. I think that is the optimal way to identify what is the best solution for you. I mean, because there's always going to be some nuances about how different organizations provide their solutions, and then there's the cultural aspect. Not only is it the tech, but how is the company? Are they easy to work with? Are they difficult to work with? Are they going to nickel and dime me for everything that may change and is different? So you need to gather that information, because it matters in the long run, because your program is going to change. So therefore, you're going to need to do different things in your solution, whether it's at the services or the tech side. So all the pre-discovery you can do prior to demonstration is going to be to your advantage as a client.
100%.
And to go back to you, Terri, when Eric talks about all these different components of the implementation, how do you accommodate the speed of the implementation as you're working with all of these moving parts? Because I know that that's something that's big these days is let's get this program standing up. There's no reason to wait 6 months for an implementation process. So can you speak a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I have a very strong opinion on this. Like, we do not need 4 to 6 month implementations for VMS unless it's a massive global customer and they want to do big bang. That's where it makes sense. And I'm sure I'm probably going to make some enemies after this phone call. But the emerging trend is we tend to work with VMS providers that are more agile and can do faster implementations. Fast does not mean sloppy or that you're missing things, but it just means that these tech products are much more configurable. They are leaving, they're putting more power in the hands of the customer with guardrails, right? So they have more admin rights, but they're educated admin rights. So you don't have to go through a change management order through every, for every single change that you want to do. And the other thing too is, customers do want to see, they've got ROI, they put in their budget, cost savings and all these other things, and they don't want to wait 6 months to see that ROI. I just think these protracted implementations for VMS products are so 1995, right? With the way that the products are being developed today, the configurability, the clients bringing more programs in-house and wanting to do more. Most of our customers are very educated. They know what a VMS is. So I think it needs to be faster, and that's what customers want. We're working with a couple right now. There's no way we would be able to stay at the meeting if we said you've got to wait 6 months. It would not go over well. I don't know. It's a controversial thing, but I think that's insane to me. 6 month implementation.
Well, I mean, certainly it certainly depends on the size and scope of the client, right? I mean, if they've got 100 locations and 30 different jurisdictions and $300 million spend plus SOW, I get it. You want a phased rollout. But if it's it's a reasonably sized program, say 30 to 50 million, and mostly in North America with some locations in EMEA or APAC, then you're right. There's no reason to take so long to stand up a program. And it could be resources. It could be, the technology agility, as you mentioned. But, by and large, with the advancements that we've had in technology, the knowledge base that we have in the industry today, we should be, narrowing down that time continuously with all the tools that we have at our fingertips.
Completely agree.
And so I kind of want to, first of all, I want to remind everyone that we do have Q&A at the end, so please submit your questions as we're going through this. But I want to talk a little bit about something that you guys mentioned at the beginning, which is those peripheral service providers. So Eric, can you just talk about the importance of those and how using a VMS can actually enhance that experience? I know it sounds overwhelming at first to have all these different partners in play, but can you just speak to how Flentis kind of groups all of those together and hands it back to the client as a nice bundle?
Well, yeah, and it goes through the same philosophy as, what is the client problem or the challenges, right, that the client has. And, we have to be very upfront and knowledgeable with whatever enterprise that we're dealing with and what industry that they're in, based on certainly the capabilities that lie right now in the marketplace. So, and I love picking on healthcare because there's so much room for improvement. So I'm going to go back to healthcare. But
and plus, they're just the best customers. Like, they're just so the culture. Well, I love healthcare culturally. Not that other sectors are not important, but they are.
Yeah. Well, there's plenty of room for advancement in their current solutions and contingent ecosystems. So approaching an organization that maybe has had a traditional master vendor, like any of the big names that are out there, We know that there's opportunities for improvement, certainly in the VMS perspective. There's opportunities for improvement in even the management of the program, but also looking at the type of workers that are used. For example, you'll see many healthcare organizations utilizing a lot of independent contractors for locum tenens, high-end nursing roles like CRNAs, PAs, NPs. These all require a sound IC vetting process, and then a defense file holder, an AOR, that's going to remove any true challenges that the client might face, kind of take away that legal soft spot for the enterprise, and manage that in a third party. There's also a cost savings opportunity, because we know that there's still vendors out there that charge significant markups on ICs versus using a traditional AOR. So not only are you're giving that kind of that compliance shell around that IC, but you're also saving money right out of the gate, and then able to put them on an AOR. So that's one aspect. Certainly the idea around talent pooling. Direct sourcing is a great methodology for talent pooling. Do I see it in healthcare? No. Why? Again, it moves the cheese of a master vendor traditionally versus a more of a third party vendor inclusive program wrapper, right? So, and then there's cost savings opportunity around that, significant cost savings. So I'm not saying one thing's going to replace everything, but what we need to do is understand that there are best practices that can be employed with very little lifting that can improve compliance, improve talent supply, reduce costs, mitigate cost, and then also just improve the user experience, period, both from the client side, the contractor side, and the supplier side, right? So, we look, as Flentis, we look in the industry for great partners constantly. And that's why I love going to all the different conferences, especially the SIA conferences, and finding out who's good at what, because if it's going to improve, those operational efficiencies and address costs and address talent supply, then why wouldn't we offer those as a potential value-added service to our clients? Maybe not phase one, maybe phase two, but knowing that they're there and can optimize their whole program, then you'd be silly not to provide that. We've got to stop thinking about how we do things now and how to make it better with what we've got, and start deconstructing what we've got, and really paying attention to the opportunities that are in the marketplace, because they're vast. And it's not just healthcare. I pick on healthcare because I've been in the space, but I see it in manufacturing. I see it in supply chain. I see it in call center. Anybody that uses on-demand talent requisitioning, there's so much opportunity for improvement. And the VMS has to play VMS, right? VMS is system of record for everything contingent. So you have to be the repository. You don't have to be the solution provider for all things, but you have to be that giant database and Lego block, so that it's easy to plug and play for potential value-added service suppliers, as well as clients, as well as even large preferred staffing suppliers, right? So being able to interchange data, integrate easily, configure easily, these are all things that we should be thinking about and communicating with our clients, because we're not recreating the wheel. It's already there. It's just, do you know about it? And do you understand how the impact is on your organization and the ease of inclusion it is to your program? So, that's my perspective, but it's going to take time, because there's a lot of companies, there's a lot of enterprises out there, and there's a lot of special relationships. We understand that. So, it's not going to happen tomorrow, but it happens with every conversation and every webinar and conference, webinar like this, and conferences that we go to every year, every quarter. It just needs to be evangelized, really.
Well, one thing I want to talk about, you call out the supplier community. So I want to call this out. I think that a lot of traditional programs really take this very command and control approach to the supplier community. And I think it's the wrong approach. I think, to your point, the tech needs to be the enabler of talent supply, period. And a lot of the staffing suppliers out there are now using direct sourcing, and they're building talent pools, and they're doing some really cool, sexy stuff around talent supply. So the tech and the services wrapper should be an enabler of that community. And that's something that we believe in strongly. And then the other piece of this, and I agree completely, is that the technology needs to be the seeker and the enabler of talent. That's really where we are. That 5 trillion business, some of your best talent is only sitting in the IC community. We work with consultants, mostly consultants. We work with the biggest and the brightest. And guess what? The majority want to be ICs, right? So I think to your point, Eric, the technology needs to be the seeker and the enabler, the technology stack, excuse me. But I do think the VMS being the entry point is still a good way to go. That's not changed that much because, again, customers don't want to think about 9 different products. They just want to think about one entry point. They want the easy button and then take care of all that behind the scenes. But putting in VMS only without having the right tech ecosystem, I think you're missing out on that. Who's going to go get that 4 trillion? Those people sitting in all those other communities.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're also giving the client a little bit more control back in their hands. You're not not saying that, hey, you're going to run your own program if you don't want to, but you're not going to be just lumping everything into one provider and then it's on them. I mean, the client's going to be having a lot more say in, their entire contingent workforce program and all those little niche providers that can provide added value.
Completely agree.
So I kind of want to talk about the experience that you guys have with working with multiple different providers. And Terri, I'll kind of start with you here. Do you ever have a situation where you have partners that aren't able to or unwilling to work with other partners in this space? Or how do you navigate the partners that you work with or referrals and things like that?
Call it that, but I would say that if you're not really socializing up front, like here's the customer requirements and bringing them in early. And I learned this a hard way when I was like new and naive and here's my big logo and come in and we're all going to hold hands and we're all going to build out this great solution together. One of the mistakes we have seen is if we don't do that socializing, bring everyone together, it's just a free for all. Like everybody's, it's salespeople. So they're all going to try and, get the sale for their company. So I think explaining the roadmap to them, here's the solution design, here's how I see it's all fitting in together. This is what you're going to get out of it. And doing that before you get in front of the customer, which means understanding the requirements. So I think that's probably the most important thing. But to Eric's point, most of the VMS products and direct sourcing products and ATS and AI and independent consulting vetting are already being built to play well with others with open API. So that's not new. But that's been our experience, Eric. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think what I've seen in terms of tech and I go back to even my days previous to Flentis on the direct sourcing side, you see the importance of stickiness, right, with your solution and ease of use, not having to do anything manual to get out of where you are now.
Right.
It's being able to immediately receive recs for, direct sourcing platform and being connected both on the buy and the supply side. What wonderful, adaptation of the utilization of that kind of solution, because then, when you have that kind of stickiness, you're not relying on an actual manual updates on certain aspects of the recruitment lifecycle, right? So is your technology able to do that? Can you do that on the fly, right? Is it easy to set up someone that has that kind of access to your platform? And then if not, why aren't you making the changes to do that, right? I'm already seeing that, a lot of clients coming to us and saying, okay, we have this type of back office system, but we also have this kind of niche solution that we're already using for contingent. Can you bring them in to your program? And if so, how's the ease of that, right?
We have some questions, by the way, so I'm not to interrupt you, but I interrupt you all the time when we talk, so it should not be anything
I'm sorry,
new.
did you say something?
But I think we only have 50 minutes, right? We have like really smart questions. So
questions are right after this.
Yeah. Okay, good. I just want to make sure. Sorry, that was rude.
No worries,
Terri.
Terri.
Doesn't mean,
so now I just forgot what I was saying, so it doesn't matter. No,
sorry.
just teasing. But yes, to say point blank is we have to be flexible in
Agreed.
our platforms and easy to use and open to taking in information and giving it back to clients. Otherwise, we're not progressing with how the industry is progressing. And it's speed now. You've got to be nimble. You've got to be agile. You've got to be easy to use, easy to stand up. Can't take forever to stand up, and start providing value as soon as possible. Especially with all the demands that there are today in the labor market, and the war on talent isn't getting any easier, and that's for sure. I mean, certainly post-pandemic, we've seen the struggles, and they're all different in different industries.
Well, the talent hasn't disappeared. They're here. They're just sitting in other communities. We got to go get them. They don't want to be a permanent employee, or they want to be an IC, or they only want to work part-time, or maybe they're retired and sitting on a gig workforce platform. The tech is the gateway drug. I keep using, that's a really bad word, but it's the tech is like the connector for these other forms of talent. And that's like the most important thing. The talent has not disappeared. There's no shortage. They're there. They're just sitting somewhere else. We got to go get them and work and let them work the way that they want to work.
Yep.
All right.
Well, I think, we've got 13 minutes left that we can start addressing some questions, because I know that we have a lot of people on the call today. I think I saw that there's like 230 folks that are watching.
So. Now I'm like nervous.
All right.
In my head, I was like, it's only 5 people, Terry, so don't worry about it.
Yeah,
All right.
keep thinking
I'll
that.
figure it out.
So the first question, I'll let whoever wants to take it. Talking about the trends in contingent workforce space, do you see a drop in use of technology during the economic meltdown? So maybe Eric, since that's a technology question.
Yeah. Go for it.
Well, I don't think I would really call it, the economic meltdown, right? I think there are some challenges in our economy. We're certainly seeing some layoffs, especially in the tech sector. But the demand for people is still fairly high. Not to say that there aren't headwinds and that may change, and I would expect it to change some. But how we approach it is, okay, when times are tough and organizations want cost savings, right? Or they're really focused on slimming down their organizations, then you're seeing different approaches to labor. So one thing is a utilization of EOR, right? Okay, maybe we may have to downsize, but what can we do to retain some of our headcount and do so at a cost save until we can get through this tough times? Putting them on a third party, EOR could certainly save the organization money and keep people employed, right? That's one methodology. Second methodology is straight up cost savings. So what are some methodologies that we can employ to cost savings? And I'm not going to call them all out there, but there are some very easy procedural things that you can do around, tenure discounts, rate discounts, preferred supplier discounts, but do so in a smart way where you're not affecting the employee. But then also be smart when things turn up and get back to where you were. Because I've seen in the slowdowns, like when we had the Great Recession back in 2008, we saw rates get reduced, and then some companies, took a little long to get their rates back up, and then they lost the people. So what's the point of doing that if you lose your talent? The key is keeping your IP and your talent in your organization through tough times. I'm not thinking that I personally don't think that we're going to see that kind of challenge that we did back in 08, 09. But as solution providers, we need to be ahead of it. So what industries are going to be impacted most, what job types are going to be impacted most, and what can we do as subject matter experts to get clients ahead of that pain before it hits them. If you're reacting, you're behind already. Right.
Get ahead of the pain. That's it.
Absolutely. That's what you've got to do. And you got to be open and honest. Sometimes the message isn't easy to deliver, but you've got to be open and honest. Otherwise, everybody's going to be left holding the bag.
All right. What type of companies are looking to spend on different technologies? Sorry, I'm reading it as it scrolls. what type of companies are looking to spend on different technologies? Either of you for that.
So I'll kind of jump in, and maybe Eric, you and I could frickin' frack. I wouldn't even phrase it that way. The companies want the pain solved, and they want to address talent supply challenges and quality of talent issues. They want to address cost savings. So the different tech products are really just the enabler of that. So if you're being a good consultant, you can say, this is how this is going to solve for the problem, and this is the tech stack that we recommend. The cost isn't really that material if you can tie it back to, really strong ROI, and, even if it's cost neutral. So I don't even, from our perspective, I don't think they go, we want to spend X on tech. They go, we want this problem solved. What is that going to look like from a tech and services play? And then what is the ROI, and is it doable? But Eric, you guys might have a different, that's what we see.
Well, I think there's some industries utilize technology more than others. I see a lot of low-hanging fruit in manufacturing, right? I see organizations that have 500, 600, 1,000 industrial workers that are still manually entering timesheets, right? Or, headcount tracking is done by the poor suppliers at the end of every week, versus being able to really handle that requisition lifecycle within the VMS. And then what are we doing around improving, talent supply, and is direct sourcing a part of the discussion, as well as the use of FMS in up and coming organizations that are fast growing in engineering and in technology. So, it really depends. I really think on the industry and where that organization is in terms of growth. That's going to impact that. There's such a large range of answers, and again, healthcare has the most room to grow. Because I don't see AOR, I don't see direct sourcing, I don't see third-party supply and rate intelligence. I don't see these things in healthcare, and they need it desperately. We just need to reapproach things a little bit better in that industry as a whole. There's a lot of money to save, and there's a lot of efficiencies to improve.
Absolutely. Agreed.
All right, we'll take a couple more questions.
And by the way, thank you everyone for the questions and listening and hanging in there with us. I'm so excited that you're engaged. I am.
I love it.
It's a happy moment.
This is my favorite part every time we do
a happy, please.
webinar.
Eric's like, oh my God, these guys are ridiculous, but I'm sorry. It just makes me happy.
Okay, so can you please address some worries that companies share when using decoupled solution partners?
Can I take this one?
Yeah, I was going to say, Terri, this is a good one for you.
Okay, great. So yeah, when you go in there with 5 or 6 logos and you try to explain to a customer, this person's going to handle direct sourcing, and this is the VMS, and this is the IC vetting, and it is very overwhelming. So I think the key for companies is if you go in and you say, this is how this is going to work together. You don't need to worry about how these pieces fit into the tech ecosystem, because we're going to have the right solution design around it. And then be able to just kind of explain and educate on how each of these pieces are going to feed in. And the other, I keep going back to this, but the easy button really is to have the VMS be that entry point. Like, that's always been our go-to. If they've got a good ecosystem and these partners are really integrated or have open APIs or whatever that looks like, I think that's the easy button. And in some cases, customers don't even want a VMS. They might just want a direct sourcing product and grab some invoicing. So, some of the automation out of that and the reporting. But I think you need to be able to have the right solution design and explain how it's going to fix the pain, and say that we're going to do the heavy lifting as far as like building this and how they fit together. You don't need to worry about that piece. But when you go bring in 5 or 6 different logos, that can be unnerving if you don't have the right talk points around it.
Absolutely. Eric, anything you want to add there?
No.
All right.
I think she nailed it.
Even better. We've got one more question that we're going to take. Last question. What are the typical stages of a product implementation, and how long does it usually take?
That's all you, Eric.
Well, I'd say, Laura, this is more you than me as the
Actually,
moderator.
it is, Laura, not
This
to
might
put you
be
on the
my
spot.
first question that I've gotten
Yeah,
on one of
I'm
these
going to let
webinars.
you talk.
Wonderful. So we have a very structured implementation process where we start out with a discovery phase, and then we move into an analysis and planning. So what did we learn in that discovery phase, and how do we turn that into workflows within the system? From there, we actually design and configure the system to meet those needs. And then into communication and training. My doorbell just rang. Sorry about that. Communication and training, and that change management piece. How do we roll this out to all of the new system users? And then just into the steady state support. So that's kind of just maintaining the program from there. And that entire process takes about 6 to 8 weeks for us, depending on the complexity and integrations and things like that that are involved.
Yeah. And the only thing I would add to that is that, during the discovery phase, when we're meeting with clients, we are socializing a lot of these other value added services with clients, including the potential for adding, some type of PMO or services wrapper. Do you really want to manage this in house, or do you want, some kind of, help standing it up, or some support, owning the process? Do you want someone to stand it up, hold it for a while, mature it, and then hand it back to you? These are all things we talk about. Obviously, these are things that Terri does, but it's important because certainly a lot of organizations that we talk to don't have the bandwidth to do this, and that's okay. We will certainly help as much as we can. We are great at standing up the tech. We're great at advising about what value-added services need to be in. But if a client really needs that support going forward, then we're going to be very open and honest and provide them introductions based on their needs to the right service wrapper and PMO provider.
Absolutely. Perfect. That was a wonderful way to wrap up. Terri, want to thank you for joining, being our guest here. Always wonderful to talk to you. Eric, always thank you for joining and giving your thoughts on the topic that we're discussing. Before we leave, just want to remind everyone, we will be at SIA Executive Forum in Miami next week. So stop by, say hello. We'll be at booth 418. If you have any additional questions that come up after and you're just thinking about the discussion today, please feel free to reach out to any of us. We're happy to answer anything you have there. Other than that, anything else, Eric, Terri, that you want to throw out before we sign off?
I want to thank everyone for attending, and hopefully this was helpful. If you want to continue the convo, it's my favorite topic. Happy to do that.
Yeah, and here we go. Terry's going to be there too in Miami, so keep an eye out for this tall redhead.
Tall redhead, come find me, or I'll come find you.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone.
All right, thanks.